Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the final episode of Gen Z Chronicles. Today, the episode will be focused on career aspirations and future goals. My name is Fizza. I'll be your host today, and I'm joined with.
I'm Lucy, and I'm another host of the Gen Z Chronicles.
I'm Jasmine. I'm from OCADU International.
Okay. So the theme of this episode is career aspirations and future goals, and we'll be doing some trivia based on that.
Okay. First one is pop culture. So, pop culture, first question. Which artist released the hit song Bad Guy in 2019? Lucy.
Billie Eilish.
Yes. Okay. Point for Lucy. Next question. Technology. What social media platform is known for its short viral video content and was launched in 2016? Fizza.
TikTok.
Yes.
TikTok was launched in 2016.
Yeah, that feels like a while ago.
Yeah, I thought it was like 2020.
Okay, 3. Entertainment. Which Netflix series featuring a group of kids in the 1980s fighting supernatural forces became a massive hit in 2016? Fizza.
Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I
Nice.
knew that one.
These are like fairly easy. Fashion. What brand is known for its trendy and affordable fashion and became popular amongst Gen Z, often associated with haul videos on YouTube?
Shein.
Fizza. Yeah.
I watch too much TikTok, I think.
Okay. Oh, I know this one. Memes. What is the name of the viral 2018 internet challenge that involved people dancing to the Drake song In My Feelings?
Oh,
The
what was
viral-
the challenge called though?
The viral 2018
Oh,
internet challenge.
was it
Fizza.
called like Kiki, Do You Love Me?
Oh, close. I'll give it to you. It was called the Kiki Challenge.
Okay.
I literally would not have known that. I don't think I got TikTok until
I didn't have TikTok during that challenge, but I would see it on Instagram and like the hashtag would be like, or I just remember the song would be like
Yeah.
Kiki, like that part, and then they'd get out of the car, like do the dance, get back in the car.
Okay, next question. What is the name of the climate change activist from Sweden who began the school strike for climate movement at the age of 15? Lucy.
Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, last question. Which K-pop group has a massive international fan base and released the song Dynamite in 2020? Lucy.
Is it BTS?
Yeah, you got it.
That was such a guess. That's the only K-pop group I
I feel
know.
like we knew the opposite ones. Like the ones I knew you had no idea, and the ones you knew I had no idea.
Yeah,
like
I
we
was
didn't
like,
raise our
any
hands at the
listeners?
same time.
Like any
Nice.
listeners who are like K-pop fans are gonna hate me if I get this wrong because I knew that group.
So Lucy, you've got 3 points. Fizza, you won this one with 4 points. Good job.
Wow.
Close
Okay.
game.
Now we can get into the main podcast theme episode of today.
Okay, so to start us off, I think that we're going to go through what our own career aspirations are. And obviously careers can change and our goals can change as like days, months and years pass. So Fizza, do you want to go first? Maybe if we think of like what our childhood dream was and now kind of where we're at now, I think that could be a good comparison.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut and a lot of other things, but mainly an astronaut. Now, that's the last thing I want to be. I hate science. It's so hard, and it's like a mix of math and harder stuff. So, not at all. My career aspirations now have most definitely changed. I would say, like, it's been a challenge because you're kind of in, like, I remember being in elementary school, loving school, having so much fun, and then kind of getting to, like, third, fourth grade being like, I hate school, like everything is so hard. Like I try so hard in these subjects and like I don't do as good as my classmates in math or something. But like English I would do good, but I felt like these other subjects would drag me down, make me feel like I'm dumb, not good at school. So by the time I got to high school, I was kind of in the mindset like I don't want to try because then I'm going to be disappointed in myself for getting bad grades and trying. So at least if I don't try and I get bad grades, like I don't feel disappointed because I didn't put my effort into this. And yeah, that's kind of where I was going. But thankfully, like my high school, I don't know, Richmond Hill High School, we made some random girls only program. It was a class with just 10 girls and we really just focused on like what we wanted to do. So we would do like self-defense classes, this like field
that's
trips all the
cool.
time. Like the school just gave a lot of funding to this class and it was for 2 periods. And yeah, it was very based on like career building and what we want to do. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like COVID happened when I was applying for high school, I mean for university, and most of my teachers were like, don't go to university, like you won't enjoy it, you won't do well on the exams and stuff. Like I was never a good test taker. So I was really leaning into college and I actually wanted to go like into radio and I wanted to be a radio like broadcaster and I thought that was so cool, but I also kind of wanted to go to university just because like I don't know, I had some longer dream of I can become a teacher one day, and I know you need a degree for that. So I was like, if all jobs are horrible, like at least I can be a kindergarten teacher and just teach all the subjects and be happy. So I didn't really want to go to university. I was so leaning on college because I got accepted to them, but then I thought of myself like being on the radio as like a 40-year-old mom or something, and I was like, I don't know if I'm feeling it. I want something like broader. And then I saw OCAD has advertising, which I applied to last on my list. But randomly one day I woke up and I was like, I wanted to be first. Like first on my list was sports broadcasting at Ryerson, and I kind of woke up and I was like, I hate sports. Like I only play and watch one sport, just
Yeah.
soccer. Like I was like, they're gonna be making me do like tennis and this, and like I'm gonna hate it all. And then I was just like, yeah, like OCAD, something just felt thing about it, and I'm honestly really glad at the way it took. But I'll just say it takes a lot of back and forth, and I want to do this confirmed, and I don't want to do this at all. So like it's okay to take your time and to change your decision, but I'll say
Totally.
like when you like it, like you'll just know. You won't be like, I hate this. I'm drained. You'll just like, yeah, work is work and it's never that fun, but you'll feel like excited and passionate. So that's how you'll know you made a good decision of what you chose. And thankfully, I feel like that now. So yeah.
That's good.
Well, for me, I mean, as like an umbrella term, I was always into things quite creative. But if we use that as like a loose term, so I was always very into reading, writing, but I also really liked dance. It was like any sort of form of expression I really liked, or making something. And then it shifted a little bit due to like external factors because I went to like a sports academy for like a high school, and they tried to get sports for everybody, but they massively hammered down on the people who were actually really good at sport, and I was quite good at running, and so that became not really like a forced passion, not as though like I didn't enjoy it, but because it was very like it was like a mandatory thing to do. I was like, oh, maybe I'm going down this, and it sounds ridiculous, but one of the like jokey reasons that led to me not being able to do that is the fact that I'm very short. So that very did limit me in that like we'd have huge sports like competitions across like the country, and it's like I would be there in groups racing with like girls who were like 6'3", and I at this point was like 5 foot. So I mean I did well, but they had a huge advantage in comparison to me. But I used to do competitive sports as well as competitive dance, and then what changed it was I got an injury that I think I was bedbound for like months, and I was able to go back to it, but you know when you just can't do something in the same way. So during that time I went back to kind of like reading and writing, and I feel like when I was growing up, it's when like technology was becoming more like, oh, look how sick this is, and so I was always really interested in that. So when I was looking, when I did like my A levels, I did a lot of like English and a lot of SAE type of things. And then university, I went and I did broadcast journalism, which, similar to what Fizz has just said, is a lot of radio, TV. But I just thought, oh, media, like just kind of, that's kind of a subset of creativity. So I went and I did that. And yeah, I feel like it's nice kind of having that like variation. Like I was debating going to uni to do English, but what I was worried about was I used to really like sport and I really like dance. But you know, when you get then made to do something, I was worried I would lose my passion for it. So I really love reading and writing, but then I'm like, but if I'm being given, like, this is in A levels, because I did like 3 essay subjects, I was writing like 15 essays a week, and I started being like, I hate this, I hate writing, which I knew I didn't. But when you've got that pressure, it kind of shifts your love for something. So I went and I did media. So I feel like schools and education, there's also like family type of influence changes your passion for things. But yeah, I've always been in kind of like the creative subset, but that's a very loose term for all the various things I did.
Nice. So there's been a bit of a change from the beginning to now. Cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hey Gotham, welcome. So today's episode is about career aspirations and future goals. So I'll ask you, from when you were little to now, have your career aspirations changed? What did you want to be when you were little, and how do you feel now?
Yeah, it changed quite a lot. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right, wonderful. Yeah, it changed quite a bit. Well, in India, the highest sort of career for working class people to aspire to is to be a civil servant with the central government, the union government. And when I was a child, that's what I wanted to be, because it's sort of this a very high status labor aristocrat type of jobs. One of the better paying jobs in the country. That's what I wanted to be, but I did not realize. Well, then I sort of, my career ambitions changed as I grew older and knew a lot more about the world. And I figured, no, I don't want to be spending my time serving the government up there somewhere in a remote part of the country. I know India is a very large country with these sort of jobs. You don't know where you're going to get posted. It could be in a border region. It could be in a village with no electricity or the internet. So I didn't want that. But the sort of decision the decision that I had to take as to where I would be for the rest of my life came when I was like 17 years old, what we would call after the 12th grade at school, when I had to go to college. So I figured I'd go to join the military for a change, but I spectacularly failed. What with they were cutting down the number of military personnel in the armed forces at about the time, which I'm thankful for right now, because I'm thankful that I didn't get into the military, because it kept changing. My ambitions kept changing. So right now I'm thinking I'll go to Europe and I'll be a designer. Right? I've studied. I've got a bachelor's degree now in industrial design, so I'm going to explore that further in Europe. That's what I want to do.
Very cool. So it seems like everybody's, even myself, like, it's tough to be like, hey, you're in high school, pick out what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Like, it's impossible to really know what you're going to do, right? And everybody's journey changes. There's always going to be ups and downs. I knew I always wanted to be an artist, but the definition of that has changed, and the way that looks has changed as well. And it's going to always change, like, throughout my life. So I think just in general, to anyone listening, being open and don't be too hard on yourself about finding the right thing, because there's some days that I'm happy with what I'm doing, and there's some days that I don't feel so great. So yeah.
I was going to say, there's actually a quote that like I got up to make sure that I was reading it right, that links to that I say to myself all the time. So it's by like Oscar Wilde, and he says that if you know exactly what you want to be, then you're inevitably going to become it, and then that's your punishment. Because then if you don't know, Like if you never know, you can be anything and you fluctuate between different things. And I feel like that, like when I'm feeling a bit like, oh my God, why aren't I doing this, or why aren't I just sticking with one thing, I think of that because it gives you like a lot of different experiences and a lot of like, I often feel like when this is like from when I used to do like sociology as well, there's a lot of people that I know where it's difficult to kind of have a persistent passion for something if you do the same thing every single day for like, let's say like 40 years. Like it's difficult to then be in the future and not be like, I wish that I hadn't tried this, or I wish that I'd, you know, maybe just saw what this was like. So I think especially while we're young, it's like best to just make the use of that lack of commitment to certain.
Totally. That, travel as much as you can. Totally.
I need to travel. I've been telling people this. I've never left the country. So I really like, I need to leave England and go see somewhere at least some point.
But when you say countries, you mean like the UK or England?
Like UK.
Okay.
I've literally always just been here.
Yeah. So can you travel like within the UK? Because you said you didn't have a passport, right?
Yeah, I don't have a passport, so you can go to Wales with without a passport. I'm not sure if you can go to Ireland or not.
Yeah, you can, like you can go to Northern Ireland. Like the UK is like sort of like a country within a country, I believe. But there's like free association with the Republic of Ireland, so you can go to Ireland as well. But I think you'd need a passport, but you wouldn't need a visa, I believe. I don't know, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's like kind of complicated to like get there, but no, I tell a fib, I've been to Wales, but I've been within like the vicinity of like the UK.
Right.
But
I'm pretty sure you can go to Scotland too.
Yeah, I'm wanting to go like to a completely different place at some point.
How about you, Gotham? Have you gotten a chance to travel around since graduating, or are you planning on doing any travels? I know you want to go to Germany.
Yeah, well, I think I've had enough of India, so for the moment I'm not going anywhere in India. So not until I go to Germany.
Nice. That'll be cool. Lucy, why don't you move us into segment 2?
Yeah, so now we're going to kind of be basing off our own experience to try to see if we can give some tips for you on reaching your professional goals. So I think the first one that we should look at is kind of like when we think of goals, like what are goals, and thinking of like the long term, short term, and how to realistically get there. So Gotham, do you want to go first and see kind of what tips you might give? Not to put you on the spot, but just to see what tips you would give about goal setting.
Right. Well, I suppose it really depends on the kind of field that you're in. In my field, for example, I'm an industrial designer. You wouldn't like, for example, care so much about grades in university, right? You have to build a portfolio. But if you're like a medical student, like if you're studying to become a doctor, then grades sort of become important, and you need to follow the university coursework and down to the T. So I suppose it really depends. And the best way to gauge like what you need to do to become successful in your profession is to like ask actual people working in your profession. Like if you're a doctor, if you're a medical student, you go ask a doctor, how do I become successful? How do I end up doing what you ended up doing, and get advice from them. And you'll find out that there are plenty of people who just want to tell you what you want to do, right? They want to give you advice, and they're just looking for someone to listen, right? And so if you find the right person, let's just go and ask them. And they're like everyone who I've ever asked for advice has helped me out. And so it's free advice, right? You're getting free advice from people who are industrial professionals who've got years of experience and who've done the things that you want to do in your life. But it becomes more difficult when you can't find such a person, or if what you're trying to do has never been done before, which which are edge cases, so you don't have to worry about that. But just find a person and ask them. I think that's the best advice that I can give.
Yeah, I feel like that definitely links into like the networking element of it. That I think I agree with Gotham of it does definitely depend on what sort of field you're going into. So for me, like journalism, oh my God, networking is key. I feel like it's more important than actually going to uni. It's not about what you know, it's who you know, like in terms of getting the job. But also with journalism, you've got to pitch story ideas, and you can't get the story ideas without the people, and it's all very people heavy. So definitely knowing people in that region, or knowing interest in people, definitely helps with that. I know that there's it's safe to say that I know that there's an acronym when it comes to goal setting called SMART, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And I think the two main things I would say a key in that is the S and the T. So one being specific, like let's say like Gotham's example of wanting to be like a doctor. Like you can't just put, oh, goal, be a doctor, because there's so much within that, or being any sort of job, like being a journalist, being a social media influencer, being a designer. Like that's the ideal end goal, but there are like 200 steps to like get there. So you need to be specific of like, oh, okay, like do I need to go to uni? Do I need to have a degree for this job? If so, don't just say get a degree. Be like, oh, research uni courses, research, this, research that. And it's being specific with it, because if you're not specific, you're never going to achieve them, because your brain will look at it and be like, okay, well, how do I do that? And then you'll panic and be like, you know what, I don't know how, so I just won't bother. And I think the time bound, specific for me with everything, like revision, anything, giving myself a deadline, even when there's not a deadline there, has always been really helpful. Because if I just have something on my list, but I haven't said, I want, like, not even this needs to be done by, but I want this done by Friday, I'll look at it and go, okay, I don't need to do that right now. And I'll keep telling myself that until, oh, suddenly it's Friday and I've not done it. And then it becomes a problem. So I think with goal setting, you need to be really specific, but also realistic. Like someone might, like Gotham mentioned about networking, might be just like amazing at like connecting with people and finding all of these people. And if you're not as like great as that, that doesn't mean that you can't reach that end goal. You just have to kind of shift the realism of it and be like, okay, well, how can I get the same result just in a different way? So I feel like that would be my tip of that. Fizza, do you have any goal setting?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, can you actually, Fizza, or maybe Lucy, can you read out, because you said SMART goals, but you didn't go through what each of the letters is.
Oh, yeah. So the S stands for specific. M is for measurable. So obviously when you've got a list, you have to reach a certain point to tick that off and say like, I do this. So let's say if one of your goals was to get into a university, like the end goal of being able to be like, yeah, I've done that, is being enrolled. Like it has to kind of have an end point where you can say I've succeeded this. You then have the A, which is like achievable, which goes into the like realistic portion of it. The R stands for relevant. So that would go into, let's say to get like an end job, let's say hypothetically to be like a doctor, there's, I don't know this for sure, but let's say there's something that you need to do, but that takes like 5 years to get to that point. Think about the goals that are relevant to where you are right now. Like what things can you do right now that are relevant to you? And then the T goes into the like time bound, which I said about having like the time limit. So for like SMART's just like a quick acronym for that.
Yeah. I'm in advertising, so we always have to use these SMART goals for like all our assignments, and so I'm pretty familiar with them. I would say in terms of goals, just it's really easy to get overwhelmed and make goals for everything, like health goals, body goals, mental goals, all these things. So in specific, just focus on like small specific goals and only focus on what's relevant, because if you have too many goals, you'll end up not achieving any of them. So just, I would say like stick to 3 at a time, and then once you finish them, add another 3, but don't have like 40 goals at once, because then you're just gonna get overwhelmed.
Maybe we can share some specific examples about like what you're doing in each of your career paths. For example, for networking, like, do you guys have any tips? Like, Lucy, what are you doing in terms of journalism for networking? Are you part of clubs? Do you have a mentor?
So I've like just graduated, like I graduated just over a week ago. This links into like the networking, especially with journalism, it's so important. within our uni we would have like guest lectures. Even though my anxiety would be like, oh, and it'd be so scary, I would make it like a mandatory thing that I'd have to go and introduce myself, and then I'd find them on LinkedIn and all stuff like that. But I had I have a mentor from like ITV who will kind of like just help me with like tips of how to like get there. But the journalism industry specifically, especially in England, is facing like just massive employment issues at the moment. So for me, kind of finishing uni, it was that acceptance of I'm not going to get into that straight away, especially for when you're starting out, you've got to do a lot of voluntary work. So some of the goals for me was like, especially when it comes into the relevancy part of the SMART acronym, it's like, okay, what things can I do now that's going to help that? And when I've looked at jobs, I know that something that has held me back a little bit is I don't currently hold my driving license. And I know that indirectly, I was like, as soon as I get my driving license, that's going to open so many more opportunities for me, because it would make it easier for travel and stuff like that. So I like thinking it of like, I'm still on the same journey, I'm just taking a slightly different path. So currently now I'm just doing some like side jobs and like working part-time to get my driving license. So even though I'm not explicitly in a journalism job, I'm doing some voluntary work and I'm still like networking with people just to kind of get myself, I think of it as like a stability thing, like making my like foundation as strong as possible for them when that door eventually does open. So yeah, that's what I'm currently doing.
How about you guys, Gotham, Fizza? Do you have any tips on, I know, like, first, to be specific, industrial design, what are you doing to build your portfolio, or do you need to speak to specific people? How's that going?
Well, I think like I find that for certain professions you don't need to like network at all. Like if you're a doctor, there's a set path for you to achieve your goals of being a doctor. Like you go to university, you send the exams at the end of the university program, you get to become a doctor. But like for other courses like mine or I suppose Lucy's, you gotta network and you gotta find out like industry professionals who are willing to help you out. And I find that people are more willing to help you out, like give you advice and stuff, when they can relate to you. Like for example, in my case, I go to LinkedIn, and I've been trying to I've been trying to go to Germany, and so I've been trying to reach people in Germany to see how the university is going to like it. I cold message people on LinkedIn and ask them if we could chat, right? And I found that people who are from my state, speak my own language, are more willing to help me out because they share this common struggle of having to get a visa and go there, and we come from similar backgrounds. They tend to, it's not universal, but right. So I suppose find people is obviously good, and you got to network a lot in my field as well. Not as much, maybe perhaps not as much, I don't know for sure, but perhaps not as much as journalism. But networking is important in my line of work. And so, yeah, that's what I found.
So I'm seeing the common theme of putting yourself out there and doing things that sometimes are not, you're not the most comfortable, but you're gonna keeping and trying new things. Like for example, I'm sure at the beginning of this podcast, everyone was kind of nervous to meet and like you didn't know what to expect, who you were gonna have to talk to. And I'm sure like now it feels like you're just kind of meeting up with friends every once a month and kind of catching up and talking about different things that you all have in common or that you're all kind of going through as Gen Z students. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, my friends use this as an example all the time to me. Like sometimes if I get a bit like doubtful, I'm like, no, I can't talk to them because they're like strangers and so confused. And my friends go like, you speak to people from so many different countries on a regular basis. She's like, shut up. So she always uses this as like an example, which I think it's good. Like I feel like my old high school used to have like a quote. It was kind of like their motto where it was like nothing good comes easy, that we all found really cringe at the time, but I think it definitely does apply, that it's like growth comes from like some harsh conditions, some like uncomfortable conditions, and you've just got to like try it, especially with like Gotham said, with like networking and even just putting yourself out there. The worst thing that can happen is like someone might just say no, and it's like they weren't the right person, you just go find somebody else.
Yeah, I would also say like this is what they always say in advertising, if you're not networking, you're not working. And like they always you're not working, you're not working. So I think ever since like people told me that, like everyone I meet, I'm so like, I don't know, I met a teacher the other day and I was like, what's your Instagram? And she was so like, oh, okay, you. And I was like, what's your real Instagram? Like, that's not your Instagram. And my friends are so like, why are you raising up the teachers? And I'm like, I'm just networking. And because she was so like, I guess no one had ever asked her before, like, what's your real Instagram? Like, I don't want your OCAD Instagram. And she gave me like her personal one. And I was like, okay, by that, I guess like she'll remember me. So I guess do networking, but like do it properly. Do it for people that you actually care about. Don't just network to everyone because then you won't value the connections you're making. But let people know that you value them, and also like have something to network for yourself. I guess maybe these
Yeah.
people have a lot of people trying to network for them, so like don't sell yourself short and think like, oh, I'm just a student. Like, you're not just a student, you probably have so much things going on. And like one small like example is like I have this small business, and because I was obsessed with celebrities in like middle school, I had a Chris Brown fan page in 6th grade, and I would post on it every day, like religiously, to the point that I got 30,000 followers. And then I just didn't use that account ever again. So when I opened my small business, obviously I switched my Chris Brown fan page to a thing for this business. And instead of having to start with like 100 followers or small, people would be like, whoa, you have 30K? Like, you must be so good at advertising. And I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, of course, so it's like, even if you might have to take some other ways, sometimes people try to hate and be like, oh, you buy your followers. And I'm like, technically, I didn't buy them. Like, I still worked for them in the same way other people do. I just didn't get these followers for the small business. But now that the followers are there for the small business, like more people follow the account because they think the business is legit and everyone knows it. So continue to just do what you love and enjoy doing. Like, it might not take you anywhere in the moment. Obviously, my parents were like, why are you posting pictures of boys all day? Like, get a life. Like, you're gonna take away your phone. Like, stop. But I didn't stop. I was a hardcore fangirl, and like it actually came and it helped me make money like 7 years down the line randomly. So stay motivated and don't lose hope, because the most random stuff might actually be your ticket in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely about being strategic. Definitely, because I feel like journalism and advertising are quite like linked with that. With the networking thing, whenever you apply to like any job, like at all, and they say like a tip is like, oh, know the company, like do like your research on it. It's not just about being like, oh, it was founded in XYZ by this, like they don't care about that, to be honest. But if you, for example, with me, it was like radio. When I'd like apply for things, I'd say, oh, I love so and so show, like they're so great, I love listening to them. And it's like, if you actually take the time to like even connect with those people, and even just on LinkedIn being like, oh my god, I love your work, like everyone's gonna love a compliment. We're all very, we all love flattery. So it's like, yeah, like over compliment people and be like, I love this, I love that, because then they'll remember you. And like Fizz has just said, like at the moment, you might not think that this one small interaction is going to help me, but in like 10 years time, that person could be the person that's interviewing you. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen at those points.
Yeah, these are some good final words, I think, to close us off on this topic. Gotham, do you have any final words? I know you kind of touched a bit, but anything else to kind of final words to give people encouragement on their future career paths? You just graduated.
Yeah, I just graduated. I did, yeah. I just want to like for university students, for Gen Z people, we're just graduating university, or we're in university at the moment, and the world just happens to be going through a tough time right now. And particularly for our generation, it's exceptionally bad. The housing market is problematic in many countries. Thankfully, not in India though. And university students are finding out that what was once a definite guarantee of a very high-paying job is now just a suggestion, that just a necessity for you to get a bit of an edge on the job market, and not really a guarantee that you're going to get a job. And so I suppose my closing thoughts would be that would echo what Lisa said, in that don't lose hope. And with that, with enough networking and with enough effort put into what you want to be, enough effort put into attaining your goals, you can eventually get it, because people do eventually get things that they want, provided that the goals are realistic, of course.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's a good few tips to kind of share with our listeners. Our last segment, I wanted to center around you guys. I know this is our last episode, so I wanted to do a bit of a behind the scenes, get to know our host. So I have a few questions for you guys, and maybe we can just go around and give some answers. Okay, so my first question is actually, I'd just like to know, what are you guys listening to music-wise? Do you have any albums you recommend, new artists, or maybe old artists, throwbacks? Yeah, pull up your Spotify. Or any concerts if you have coming up.
Do you guys know what subliminals are?
Say that
Sub-
again?
Sub what?
Subliminals?
No, subliminals, no. Like subliminal messages?
Yeah.
Is that a band?
No, it's like the concept of subliminals. They've started like putting music in the background of it. So like it's a way of telling yourself affirmations subconsciously through listening to music.
Okay. Oh, so that's what you're listening to.
Like sometimes. That's
Well,
like on YouTube.
oh,
like
it's on YouTube?
Yeah. They're just subliminal, like for example, like for positivity or for anything, and like it helps.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's I should check
Like
that out.
specific artist. That's more like mental health.
Okay.
I would share.
Yeah, I would just say with the Spotify, some of my top artists are Rex Orange County, there's Frank Sinatra, Elvis Presley, Chapel Rowan has had, oh my god, the chokehold on me for like 15 months. Please go listen to Chapel Rowan. And yeah, like Conan Gray, Arlo Parks, but then I also love like Mitski and stuff like that. A song recommendation I would give though is Japanese Denim by Daniel Caesar. That is just oh my god, you listen to
I
that
love
song
Daniel Caesar.
and it's just like, oh, it's like, I feel like just melting. It's great. Yeah, I would recommend that.
Cute. How about you, Gotham? What have you been listening to?
Well, I would share my music library, but I'm not a first language speaker of English, so a lot of the music that I listen to is from my native language. I don't know if you can say it, but it's a mix of Russian and Malayalam and Tamil music and English music that I rediscover, which are like 20 years old, but I've just heard of them now. So I'm not full of pop culture, so I don't know about them. But I listen to it like every once in a while. So I Shazam it. I've got this app called Shazam.
Oh, yeah?
You know it. So, like you hear music, you listen to music, and it tap on it. You tap on the app, and it listens to the music and it finds out what the title is. And so I use that as my main music discovery tool.
I would be lost without that.
Yeah.
Because I tell myself I'll remember the lyrics and then I'll Google them and I never do.
Fizza, how about you? What music-wise, like artist-wise, what have you been listening to?
I feel like it's always a mix. Like I said, I like Chris Brown. I like a lot of Toronto artists, honestly, like Drake, Tory Lanez, Party Next Door, all like the small ones. I also listen to like Spanish music, like Osuna. I don't know if you guys know him. Arabic music, just like French music. Honestly, I love like all music.
Cool. That's really cool. Out of the whole series, the podcast series, so the 6 episodes, do you have a favorite episode or moment from the series?
Oh,
I know not everybody was in every episode, but looking back.
I feel like I've just got to quickly look back at the ones that we've covered.
Oh, here, I can pull it up. So episode 1 was just like an intro about studying in university life. Episode 2, parental pressures. 3, friendships and romantic relationships. 4 was financial matters. 5, social and mental health issues. And then this is 6.
I feel like I would probably say like the family pressures one was, I think, the one that like stands out to me, because I think especially like because we all come from very different backgrounds, I feel like that's probably like the most impactful one, because there might be some people like who think like, oh, they won't know, like they won't be able to relate to me because we're not even in the same like continent or anything. So I feel like I really liked that one because it's like we all kind of bonded over similar things of like, oh, this is a very universal thing that like external pressures suck. So that was quite like a nice thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, that's true. That episode felt like everyone kind of got vulnerable, which was nice.
Yeah, it wasn't like we all massively disagreed from each other. Like I could see the cameras of a lot of us being like, yeah, my parents are the same thing. So that was quite good.
I think like this isn't specific, but how do I say it? Just kind of like hearing from everybody else. I think in specific, like what Maria from Brazil would talk about would kind of make me realize a lot when we were kind of like, oh, we're getting paid like $200 for this, which like to us is like a lot, but not like that much. And to like her, I think like got them, or one of you guys were like, whoa, like this is lunch for like 2 months, and we were like, this is like 3 days for us, like, and this is like not only are we getting paid and you're not, like us getting paid this amount would do like 10 times the amount as like it would do for us. And just realizing how like we all are kind of the same
Yeah.
inside, but we all just live the lives that we were given. Like Lucy lives her Manchester life because that's where her soul was put. I'm like my Toronto stuff, like, everyone is kind of just where we're put. But I think like deep down inside, like we're just like genuine nice souls. Like at the end of the day, people, we just want to feel included, feel loved. Like we're so simple on the surface, but it's like all these different things make us so deep. But this podcast just made me realize that like we're all just the same age in different places, and like we're actually so much more similar than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like seeing the shock of our experience. Like when you were just talking about that, I remembered it. Was it the mental health one, which was the last episode?
It might have been the financial matters one. I feel like we were talking about like commuting and like the cost of commuting and
Yeah.
like how long it takes. Yeah.
So with the like mental health one, I think that we were mentioning going on like walks, and I said that especially back home, like where I live, because it's quite like a countryside area, you'd go on a walk and you'd go around a corner and you'd see like a horse, and I think I saw like Fizz's face was like, what do you mean? You just see like a horse or a cow or something. And I think it kind of links to the title of the podcast, that I think the thing that makes us so similar is like the Gen Z element of we're all in completely different like continents and different like areas of the world, but I think we're all faced with kind of like slightly different versions of the same realities, if that makes like any sense. Like it would be very rare for like nobody like our age to be faced with any sort of mental health issue or any sort of like financial issue, but it's like the way that we deal with it and the way that we experience it like varies.
Gotham, how about you? Do you have any highlights, any realizations you had during episodes?
Yeah, the mental health episode was my, I suppose, the most the most interesting to me, because I've often thought about all of these stuff, and it is we were talking about it and it felt like, oh my god, we all have the same problems. It's wonderful. It's also as if I was not alone anymore. Yeah, I suppose that was the most revealing to me.
I feel like we've all validated each other like during like all of
Yeah,
the different things. Like
Right.
when we've been asked questions, I've said in my head like, oh, am I gonna say this? And everyone's gonna be like, you need professional help, like what is happening? But then when we spoke about some things, a lot of people have kind of said, yeah, I've gone through a similar thing. So it's been nice it's kind of like we've all felt like heard and like valued just through like similar experiences, which has been nice.
Oh, that's a nice way to end the episode, I think, actually. Yeah, I just feel really lucky that I've been able to start this. Actually, thanks to Fizza. This was Fizza's idea, and then our office was able to put the call out. So it's been great that we've been able to see this project from the start to finish. So pat on the back to everybody for staying engaged and just joining us monthly. It's been fun. It's been really nice to get to know everybody. So thank you.
Oh my god, it makes me feel so emotional.
This is
I
so sad.
know. It's like the last episode of a series, a show series.
Like, I remember the first time I met you, I was in Australia and I didn't want to be all weird with the time. So I woke up at like 5 a.m. to I'll be back in Canada by the time it starts, so there's no reason to be like, I'm in Australia right now. And I was so like nervous. I was like, oh my God, like they accepted my podcast thing. Like I was so into podcasts then. And then I was like, I wonder how it's gonna be. And it just was like so down the line in the future. And yeah, it's been so fun. Like, thanks guys. I don't even feel like it's something that I started, like this is our thing. We
I know.
ever meet one day, it's like Gen Z Chronicles, like the podcast. Like,
I feel like we've all bonded over it. Like, I feel like from this podcast, the one distinctive thing I remember is one of the first things you guys said to me was if I like a lot of tea and crumpets.
Oh my God.
And I literally, when I was going onto the call, I was like, oh God, I was like, they're going to ask me a bunch of British stereotypes. Like, is that going to be the first thing?
Oh, that's funny.
for me,
Well,
and she was from Manchester, and every single month when I see you, like, I just remember her exactly. Like, you guys just have the same accent. I don't even know, but I was like, I love it. Like, and we know each other's personalities now, even though we've only talked on the phone and like in groups. It's like, it's crazy. We've come a long way just talking once a month, but like we've like, I feel like guys.
yeah.
So weird.
So this is going to be the last episode, but before Gotham, before you joined, we were saying we should do like a Halloween special edition episode with like maybe Halloween trivia, or I don't know, I'll figure it out. But it would be nice to do maybe just one more episode after this, like a special edition thing. And yeah, you guys should try to keep in touch outside of this. I hope you guys have like
But yeah,
social media and things like that.
I feel like we should do what Fizz said as well, like possibly about like a back to school sort of one as well. I feel like that could be like a nicely relevant one to be like, if you start school like next week, like from someone who's older and has been through hell, here's our tips type of thing.
Yeah, true. I was so nervous to start university, like extremely.
Okay, so I think from all of us, we want to say a huge thank you, not just listening to this episode, but for like the whole series of the Gen Z Chronicles and like partaking on the polls, because obviously we've hosted, but you guys have all had an impact and an input on that as well. So Jasmine has just said that it's going to be on the OCADU website forever. So if you're not listening to it right now, you can listen to it years in the future and let us know what you think of it. But yeah, from me, it's a huge thank you. And if you guys want to say thank you as well.
Thank you so much. It was an honor. It was so fun. Hopefully we can work together soon.
Yeah, we might come back for like a spotlight episode. Bring us all together. So yeah, thank you everybody.